Hey guys, this is gonna be a short stream, I think at least, unless anyone has any questions at the end. I'm gonna be putting on. I'm gonna call it the Caster Clinic. Uh, Not 100% sure what that's gonna mean. It would be a workshop if I were in person with people and kind of working with them. So clinic seemed a little bit more better, professional, whatever. Anyways, um, first and foremost, I want to talk about my background in casting, in acting, and all that. I have 5, 6 years or I'm sorry, of acting, and about half a year ish of casting. That's in total, I guess, because I have been casting for a long time, but not consistently. So that's kind of my background. I did on stage acting. I never did any camera work, so all of my stuff is going to be having to do with live and in the moment type deals. one of the first and foremost, One of the first things I want to talk about is I want to talk about the diaphragm breathing that I talk about a lot whenever anyone asks me for any sort of tips and tricks and stuff like that. Diaphragm breathing is so important and so key to making sure that you have enough air, enough comfortability, and you're not like short of breath all the time. I guess is the best way to do it. It also helps relax you if you ever have any issues trying to sleep. Diaphragm breathing is always the one that I go to. So to do diaphragm breathing, you breathe with your diaphragm. So normally when you breathe, if you're gonna be lazy about it, I guess, is just see how my shoulders are kind of raising, and when I breathe in and out, it's the wrong way to breathe. And I know there's a right way and wrong way to breathe. The best way to get this done is I'm gonna kind of show you with my fat stomach. Point that down a little bit. So this this is my stomach at resting. And you see how it's moving up and down kind of slightly? That's just me breathing normally. I've kind of taught myself. I've taught myself to breathe with my diaphragm pretty regularly, so that's just how I breathe now. Um, but one of the things I want to point out is that my stomach is moving in and out, right? One way that you can do this is just take deep breaths. Almost looks like I'm kind of pregnant, right? But it helps. One way to kind of practice and train this is to, and I wish I brought one here, but I don't, get a book, put it on your stomach while you're laying face down, and see if you can get the book to kind of push in and out. It's really going to help relax you. It's going to help make sure that you have enough breath while you're speaking, and it's going to make sure that, all in all, you feel a lot more relaxed. The other thing I want to talk about is mouth stretches. I know it's going to sound weird. I know it's going to sound strange. But mouth stretches are second, I think, most important when it comes to prepping. I do them almost every single time I cast, unless for some reason I forget to, or if I'm drinking, I won't do it. Which we'll get into what you should be drinking during, before, and after casting, which is super important. Uh, it's the wah and the ow, right? So what you want to do is you want to stretch your mouth almost like you're making an O shape and go as loud or as open as you can get your mouth. So I do that 3 times for wah, and then I go the other way and I go ow. It's stretching different muscles of your mouth, and it's making sure that all of your diction is going to be kind of on point when it comes to your plosives, right? And your plosives are the kind of the non-silent sounds. I'm gonna get my mic a little bit closer so that I'm not talking into nobody. But that's what the mouth stretches are gonna help out with. I do that 3 times each, and then I do that so 3 sets of 3. I guess the best way to put it, if you've ever lifted weights or anything like that, it's the way I do it. Another thing is tongue stretches. So what I'll do is I'll take my tongue and I'll try and touch my nose with it, right? Super simple. Everyone's tried to do it. You do try to touch your nose, your chin, the left, and then the right. And then wipe off the spit that you just put on your mouth or on your face. That's going to help with diction as well, right? Diction, I guess I really didn't describe it. Diction is how well somebody can hear each individual word. A good way to practice this is to kind of, when you're talking, to add the end of your last word to the beginning of your first word, right? So if I'm doing the madhouse, right, which that was horrible diction, them, see how the M is being attached to the beginning of that? And then what did I say? The ending of one and the beginning of the other. So you're pretty much going to mush them. But what that's going to help you do, and that's what's going to teach you, you don't want to do that while you're doing casting because it's going to sound weird, right? He goes up for the shot. So it's just teaching you that you should be very very understandable in your diction and all of that stuff, right? So very important. Another thing too is that I know if anyone's heard me cast, you'll kind of understand why I do my diaphragm, my mouth stretches, my tongue stretches, because I don't take a lot of time to think about what I'm saying, which is bad. It's on my part. I have to fix that. But that's why I need a lot of energy. I need a lot of projection, which is how loud you can get your voice and all that. One of the things I want to talk about in preserving your throat, the way your throat works is that it's these two little things that vibrate back and forth while you're talking, right? So, hey, I'm going to move this a little bit over here so I'm not looking over to the side, right? Thank you. Okay, so, come on, Madhouse. All right, so what it is these two little things, right, that kind of vibrate your vocal cords or whatever the actual scientific word is for it. Super important to keep those well lubricated while you're speaking, before you're speaking, and after you're speaking. Best absolute way you can do this is tea with honey. Tea or something warm. You can do like coffee. Coffee's a pretty good way to kind of do that, but coffee also, you put sugar in your coffee, you put anything, it starts to build up syrup. You're going to be coughing up a lung every time. So it's better off to do tea with honey. And that way the honey is going to coat the back of your throat. It's going to keep that well lubricated. It's also when you can kind of tell when you hear the vibrations in the back of my throat. If you have a sore throat and you can't talk, that's when those two things are too dry to do this anymore. So they're trying to recuperate. They're trying to build up those oils, the spit, the saliva, whatever. So you want to make sure that in your throat is well lubricated. Tea's the best way. And water, you can use water. Water's pretty good. Obviously, it's pretty good. But it's better to use tea, just in my personal opinion. Last thing you want to do before you actually step on the microphone and say, hey, here's what I'm doing, research, right? If you've done casting more than once or twice, you want to do some of your research. That's my area where I lacked the most in. I just tried to do a C9 versus G2 casting, and it was horrible, right? I didn't know anyone on the team. I didn't know any of their previous matches. Something I got to work on. I'm really lazy with that. But make sure you go in there with as much research with teams, stats, individual players, previous tournaments, whatever you can find, make sure that's in there in your notepad, right? So now during it, I talked about notepad. While you're doing your casting, always make sure you have a notepad, text file. I would sometimes have like a shared notepad when I casted. When I casted Melee, that's what I would do is I would just have a handwritten notepad, keep my notes down. Whatever you can do to say, that was a cool play. I'm going to type that out real quick while the play-by-play is going, while the color is going, whatever side you decide to pick on, right? But one of the things I want to talk about too, in addition to notes, is to make sure that you have good improvisational skills. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean, don't cut off your other caster. It's something I know everyone does, and it's something that's going to happen, right? It's unavoidable. You're trying to be in the moment. You're trying to say, hey, listen, I think you're not picking up on this. And it's hard. But the other thing, too, is that you want to try to agree with as much of your caster as your opposing caster, your other half, your play-by-play, your color, whatever. You want to try and agree with them as much as you can. If you disagree with a caster, if you've ever watched any professional anything and they disagree with each other, it almost feels really uncomfortable, right? You don't want to be there. You're like, oh, why are they talking like this, and yada yada. So I always try to agree with as much as I can with my caster, unless I know my caster. If I'm casting with somebody like Vishy, when I casted with Goose, Captain Chase, I kind of know them. I know that I can disagree with them, but I know I can follow that up with another thing. So if you have to disagree with somebody, follow it up with something. Don't change topics completely. That's a big no-no in improv. But try and move forward with the conversation. Don't ever try and put up a wall and say, I'm right, you're wrong. We're not getting over this. So another thing too is that don't try and eat anything as much as you can avoid it, right? Especially dry stuff. That goes kind of back to prep too. Make sure you don't eat anything dry. It's going to dry out those two little things again, right? So don't dry those out as much as possible. Don't eat. Wait until breaks to eat, or wait until later while you're off camera or off the microphone, whatever. While you're casting, try and drink tea and warm drinks. Again, best thing to keep those things lubricated. You can do water too, but from my experience, the absolute best way to go about doing your casts is warm drinks. So tea, some coffee, hot cocoa even if you have some of that. And while you're during your cast, I want to talk about developing vocabulary. Another big issue I have with myself, or these are just little notes from myself, I guess. But developing vocabulary is super crucial to making sure that your casting doesn't go stale, right? You don't want to start off with the same thing every time you talk. And to get an idea of what I'm talking about, there have been casters that I have casted with that will go, every time I stop talking, they'll go, yeah, and, or yeah, so every single transition that we have with each other is always filled in with those two words. So just try and mix it up. If you say, or yeah, so, or I think this, just try and mix it up. Even if it's the same three things throughout the entire cast, at least it's not the same thing every single time. And in doing so, you'll start developing more vocabulary. You'll start saying, that's a ceiling shot instead of that backwards flip that Squishy did that one time. You'll start figuring that out. Watching pro casters is going to help a lot. Somebody that I like to watch and that I kind of learned a lot of my Rocket League casting off of was Jorby Please. He did a lot of stuff right, and that's kind of where I get... I forget who it was, but I was on Color, and I think it was Curtis, was saying that I cast a lot like Jorby Please in the sense that I try and come in on Color if the play-by-play isn't able to catch up in time, and if I'm trying to do my color and all of a sudden they get a kickoff goal, right? I'm trying to get into that play-by-play and say, I know I can do this, just let me do play-by-play, and then we swap roles for like those 2 seconds, right? Then the play-by-play will take over, he'll do the play-by-play, they'll yell at me later, whatever happens. And that comes with finding your style. So you want to make sure that you're comfortable in casting, right? It's a fun thing to do. It's a hobby until you're making the big bucks. It's a hobby to do. So just make sure that you're comfortable with however you're casting. If you're a quiet caster, if you're an analytical caster, if you're a loud, obnoxious caster like I am, if you don't know a lot of vocabulary stuff, you don't know a lot of stats, make sure that your casting comes from that style. If you want to develop another style, and if you want to develop your style to mix in other styles, perfectly reasonable, right? That's how you make your own style. But just make sure you're comfortable, right? And in talking about comfort, you want to make sure that your posture is good. A lot of the times I see casters, they'll be slumped over like this, right? Watching whatever the screen they have in front of them. If it's, I see it a lot in Melee and in CSGO. They put this screens right in front of them, but you can't do this, but they put them lower, right? So they have to look like this while they're casting this entire time. That closes up this voice box right here. It's really hard to get loud and clear diction if you look like this all the time, right? And not only that, if you're a bigger person, kind of like I am, my throat will like kind of push up against it, and it just becomes uncomfortable, right? You don't want to do that. So try and make sure that you're comfortable. Watch your posture, and afterwards, after your casting, guys, watch your videos. It might sound a little bit weird. It's gonna sound super strange, right? The first X amount of times you do it. but watching your videos is 100% the best way to get better at casting. That's kind of how I recognize that I don't have as vast of a vocabulary as I want. That's kind of how I know where I need to improve. It's just something that like pro players do. Pro players will watch their previous games and stuff and say, "Oh, I did this wrong. I did that right. I'm gonna take some notes." And that's another thing. Take notes on your videos. Make sure that you know, okay, I'm doing this right. I'm doing this wrong. How can I get these to work? Right. Tea again. Tea is like the savior. Drink tea afterwards as well. Help your voice stay lubricated. Help it not hurt. If you guys have heard my casting, that's my secret as to how I don't lose my voice every night. And that's actually why when we were doing Boosted Althea 1, I lost my voice during I think it was the second game, or I almost lost my voice. I kind of caught it. It was because I didn't have anything warm to drink, right? And I should have requested something, but I'm one of those people that I don't want to ask too much of anybody. Why not just drink lubrication? Hey, you know what? That's some people. If you can find lube that's drinkable and you like it, warm it up. It's the only thing I'm going to say. Just warm it up. All right. Another thing too is just have fun, guys. You're going into this casting thing and you're saying, all right, well, I'm going into this. I'm not making big bucks. You know, I've made a total of $15 casting Rocket League, I think. I've made more doing other things, but that's kind of a story for a different time. Just have fun. You know, that's kind of the basics of it. If you can't find fun in it, there's no reason in doing it. So just make sure that you're going to have fun with it. The last part I kind of put in as a ramble or a Q&A type deal. If anyone has any questions in the chat, who's been listening, I don't know how many people I've been broadcasting to, but if you want to come and ask anything specifically, you guys know how to reach me at the Madhouse, TheMadhousee on Twitter, because the two people that have the Madhouse and the_Mad_House for some reason have been inactive for years, and I can't get the tag. But Twitch, more than welcome to come at me here. On Discord, I'm on the Boost Legacy Discord. Anyone's welcome to send me a private message. Whether or not I actually get back to you on it might be a different story. I might be busy with some other things. But yeah, I just kind of want to make sure that I touched everything. Your diction has to be there. Your voice well lubricated. Diaphragm breathing, mouth stretches, tongue stretches. I used to do this thing when I was acting. We would do this as a group. Go the lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue, the articulate, enunciate, reticulate. What it does is it kind of makes you aware of what's going on in your mouth, right? When you talk, I can already tell my tongue's hitting the roof of my mouth, so I know that when I go to do that, I'm going to be very aware of it. And it's weird. When I listen to myself, I sound like I slur a lot more words than I do because of my acting. I know I can improve on a lot of things. So that's pretty much it, guys. Again, if you have any questions, you know how to reach me. I'm going to be putting this up on YouTube mainly for any casters that want any sort of tips, tricks, whatever. Anytime any caster wants to get in touch with me, you're more than welcome. I'll sit down with you, have a one-on-one session. I'll listen to your casts. I'll even make sure that you're doing this, you're doing that. And mainly, guys, just have fun casting. So thanks for stopping in if anyone did. I should be back streaming tomorrow if everything goes according to plan. I record a bi-weekly podcast, and I often go back to listen to how I did. Antihero, that absolutely. It's 100% based on how you digest your own notes, though, right? So if you go back and you listen to your podcast and you go, all right, I was stuck on the same topic for 2 hours. We should have switched a long time ago. If you go into the next podcast and you do the same thing, it's not really worth it, right? So you have to put some of your stuff. It's going to feel uncomfortable, guys. It's really going to feel uncomfortable when you start doing your casts and you're not comfortable with your partner. You're not comfortable with yourself talking. You're not comfortable listening to yourself. But once you get past that, and casting's a lot of fun. And once you can get through that, guys, I want to see some good casts, right? I want to see it. Nexus, SPL, I want to see somebody be like, hey, I remember that Madhouse video. He was telling me all these things I have to do, right? So that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to come. If you are here and you're new, please be sure to hit the follow button. I try and stream every day, at least 3 to 4 hours. Rocket League, Call of Duty, CSGO, Overwatch, whatever I'm feeling that day. And peace out, guys. Thanks for stopping by.